All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon's District 214 Community Engagement Session. My name is Scott Rowe. I'm the Superintendent of High School District 214. It's my third year in the role, and I am grateful for your attendance here today to engage with us in conversation around our facilities. With me, I have Dr. Justin Attaway, our Associate Superintendent of Business Services, Mr. Chris Yulee is our Associate Superintendent of Activities and Operations, and Mr. Patrick Maggi, who is our Director of Community Engagement and Outreach. They're here this evening. Mr. Maggi will help moderate the Q&A portion of the presentation, as well as the rest of the team that will jump in and help me answer your questions when we get to the question and answer portion later in the presentation. To kind of set the stage for some details about what we're going to do today, I'd like to walk through and just go through details. So there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If at any point in the presentation you have a question you'd like us to answer, please drop your question in that area. Mr. Maggi will monitor that. And there are two portions in the presentation where we'll stop and answer some questions. And that's in the feedback session when we're asking for your feedback on our priorities list and on the potential funding levels. We'll answer some questions. And what Patrick will do is we'll pull out some of the themes that are beginning to emerge in your questions to try and hit the biggest, most pressing overarching themes that you ask. And then at the end, once we've gotten through the entire presentation, we'll spend a good amount of time answering the questions that you present. So before I begin the actual presentation, I again want to really thank you for spending some time with us today, whether it's over your lunch and you're enjoying lunch at your desk or just in engaging as a community member. I want to acknowledge a couple of elephants that live in the room with us today. The first is just the state of our society and the economy right now, and I feel the same pressures that you do, and recognize that there's some uncertainty circulating in our economy financially as a nation, and I want you to know that we don't take that lightly. We're not engaging in this conversation blindly. It's a process, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. I also want to acknowledge that we live in Illinois, and we live in Cook County in Illinois, and we are heavily taxed. Taxes are a significant burden to the day-to-day lives that we live. And as a taxing body, I want you to know that engaging and coming to you with this conversation is not something that we take lightly. We take great pride in being good stewards of the tax dollars that we're afforded by our community, and I'll explain some of the efforts that we take to spend down our fund balance with intelligently, to extend life of our equipment as we've clearly done. And then also to spend our money wisely on programs that support students and expand those dollars as far as we can in terms of energy efficiency. And I'll go into some more of that detail as we go through the presentation. I just wanted to acknowledge it. It's not an easy time financially. We acknowledge that. That's why we wanted to have this conversation, and taxes are, of course, a burden, and we're not looking to do anything irresponsibly. We want to educate the community as to our needs, and then have a conversation about it. So now on to the next phase is really that we are beginning in phase 2 of a 4-phase process, and I can't emphasize that enough. This is a process. We are not asking for $850 million in a referendum, period. The district is not recommending to our school board that we go to a referendum. We have not made that recommendation. Our school board has not taken action saying that we will go to a referendum. What we're talking about with you today is in 2021, the district started a process to conduct a facilities assessment. That facilities assessment with our third party, Archon, one of our architect partners, as well with input from a construction manager, from our architects and engineers, did a comprehensive assessment of all of the buildings in District 214, looking at our mechanicals, the air conditioners, the boilers, our generators, looking at the infrastructure, which are roofs, our windows, our fire alarm systems, our doors, the door handles, all aspects of everything in the district, from the athletic facilities and turf replacement cycles, everything from the bleachers and the handrails to make them ADA accessible. a comprehensive view of all things in the district, trying to shift from a 5-year capital improvement planning process to a more elongated process to more of a 10 years plus. And that assessment gave us $850 million worth of projects that we needed to focus our attention on. Internally, we've begun chipping away at that. There's a chart I will show you of what we've accomplished in the last 10 years. Where it's upwards of $180 million worth of investment in those buildings, and I'll show you the breakdown year over year how much we've spent. And the purpose of that is we didn't get to $850 million worth of need by ignoring our buildings. That has not happened. And I want to really combat that narrative. This assessment is just a picture in totality of what is going on in the district with our buildings and our facilities. And we are now engaging in a conversation with the community to educate and then also seek feedback on how we should prioritize attacking that list with you. The reality is some of the things on that list we cannot do with our annual budget year over year. Some of them are so big because of their wholesale system changes because of the age of our buildings. And I'll go into that conversation with you in the presentation. I just wanted to call that out. And I mentioned what we've done. The district has embarked on a capital improvement planning process since, the late 80s, of a 5-year project plan, breaking our needs down into 5-year chunks. And we would present to the board what the needs were in those 5-year windows of time, and then stick to that, and then renew that based on need. Through that process, we've upgraded facilities. We've expanded some facilities. They've enhanced and offered some regular routine maintenance, as in roof replacement or chiller replacement on top of some of our buildings for air conditioner. But that's not wholesale system change that we'll be discussing today. So I just wanted to take some of those themes that are beginning to emerge in the community and provide some answers to them. We're here for a conversation as a part of a process today. And I look forward to the feedback. Look forward to the conversation. So again, thank you very much for joining us. Now I'll walk through the presentation. And for those of you that aren't parents in the district or have had students with us recently, I'll begin by giving a little detail of who we are and some of the things that we're proud of, just to make you familiar with what District 214 has to offer. And then I'll go into some detail with some images that outline some of the need in the buildings. So first and foremost, we are a center of educational excellence where we believe we're helping students discover their future and craft their path forward beyond high school, whether that be the military, directly into the workforce, or to a 2 or 4-year degree. District 214 has the programming and supports in place to help our students discover their future. And we are able to do that through world-class academic and co-curricular offerings. We have our course book is extremely thick with tons of opportunities for kids to engage in coursework almost as far as they can imagine to try and figure out what are they interested in. And maybe most importantly, through some of our internships and apprenticeships, what they're not interested in, and save them time, energy, and money down the road. Our students are extremely involved, whether it be fine arts or they're involved in athletics or other activities. We are very proud to be a fine arts district. We have tremendous arts throughout this community. But we're also very proud to offer all of the IHSA sports that IHSA supports, as well as tons of activities for our students to find themselves as people in a safe and supported place in District 214. We believe learning is boundless, and we can provide our students with the opportunities of finding that bright future with great partnerships with our industry partners, with over 700 businesses locally that offer internships, as well as opportunities for our students to job shadow and learn on-the-job real-life skills. District 214 is very proud to share that we've pioneered the Career Pathways program that has taken off nationally. We have over 40 state and nationally recognized career programs that expose our students to a wide range of opportunities, both inside the classroom and inside the workplace, challenging them and making them intellectually curious. Recently, I had the opportunity to do a site visit of another school in Colorado. And at that site visit, I saw a school that had an innovation campus. It was beautiful. Students had opportunities in state of the art to learn about whether it be automotive or at an airport hangar, or a warehouse for CNC machines and what manufacturing can look like, as well as a health center. And what was wonderful about it, it was big, it was state of the art in terms of facility, and they offered 20 career pathways for students from all over that district to come to this technical high school and learn. And after that learning experience, I returned home with a greater sense of pride of what we offer in District 214 than before I went. And the reason being, that district, which is wonderful, extremely innovative, offering tremendous opportunities for their students, they had to travel to an innovation campus to get those learning opportunities, whereas we're able to embed 40 career pathways, not 20 that they offered, 40 career pathways in all 6 of our comprehensive high schools, where they're able to have those learning experiences embedded into their home school and not have to travel out and leave their programming. There's a lot of benefit there. There's a lot of value there. Not only time, but just comfort and diving into learning of your areas of interest in your home school. So I return. Hopefully, you feel that sense of pride and understand the magnitude and positivity that we're able to offer in terms of the 40 different career pathways within our 6 high schools, 6 comprehensive high schools. We're also a leader in early career learning opportunities. This is one of the areas that I get most excited to talk about, as all students have access to advanced placement. I repeat that every single student has access to advanced placement programming, or whether it be dual credit or AP courses, or as well as some independent online learning. Almost 50% of our students graduate with 15 college credit hours. 92% of our kids take at least one AP or dual credit course, graduate with some form of college credit. The value there is students saving money beyond our doors is tremendous. There is a statistic that I think is important to point out, as it finds itself in our strategic plan as a metric we're trying to advance, and that is students graduating with 15 college credit hours or more. And we're trying to get that north of 50% of our students, because there's obviously tremendous power there. Students that achieve 15 college credit hours before graduating high school have a greater likelihood of finishing college, if that's their path. If it's not their path, almost every student is going to need some level of post-secondary education. And if we can trim the expense on the elective side so they can really focus in on what they're after, we're saving them time as well as preparing them for the level of rigor of post-secondary work that everyone can benefit from. So extremely proud of those opportunities we're able to offer our students. As one of the largest high school districts in the state of Illinois, our neighbor District 211, we bounce back and forth between being who's the largest. They've got us by a few hundred kids at the moment. But we're very proud of our ability to personalize the learning experience for every learner. That's where the beauty of the pathways come in. Where our students are interested, we likely have an avenue for them to explore and determine if it's the right path for them, whether it be aviation, our home construction program with our PAC program, agricultural and biology, to the entrepreneurial classes that allow our students to develop products and test their products in the real world market. We just had a national champion in that regard out of Prospect, to our app showcase, working with app development and solve real world problems, as high schoolers certainly have the ability to do, as well as more traditional paths in terms of healthcare. I'm extremely proud to share that all 6 of our comprehensive high schools are nationally recognized as Blue Ribbon schools. Most recently, Hershey's has held that award in 2024, but all 6 of our comprehensive high schools are being nationally recognized. District 214 is a tremendous place to learn and grow, not only to discover your future, but to receive and experience a tremendous world-class education. We achieve all of this success while being fiscally responsible. Our school board is very, very proud of the financial ratings that we maintain. We compare to our peer districts having the 3rd lowest overall tax rate, which is extremely important and achieved through sound fiscal practices. the second lowest expense per pupil, meaning we get more out of our dollars with our programming, and then the second lowest average administrator salary. And I don't share that or the expense per pupil as a point of pride of we're skimping on things. I share that as we are strategically placed in the top expenders on staff to attract the best and retain the best, but we're not at the top. We're very strategic as to where we are. We're in the conversation, but we don't place ourselves at the very, very top because we want to ensure that we have the very best people in front of your kids, educating them on a daily basis. However, our infrastructure is aging, and we have to begin really prioritizing how we spend our dollars to renew District 214. Our youngest building is 52 years old and marks the last time the district went for a referendum, which was to build Buffalo Grove High School. Our eldest building is Prospect High School, built in 1957. There are aspects of our facilities that need some attention. And again, I share this with you as a point of this is a conversation and our purpose to educate you of some of the things that we're facing in our schools. Our schools remain safe places. Our schools are wonderful places to learn, but they do need some TLC in certain areas that you may not notice when you walk in the buildings, because our custodial maintenance team, does a tremendous job of keeping our buildings looking beautiful, ready for kids to learn on a daily basis. What we'll be talking about today is that area behind the first wave of the walls and some of the infrastructure that needs some attention. The photo on the right with the two inside the gym is actually at Elk Grove, and that photo was taken in early August of this summer, where a roof leak was sprung. We were capturing the water that was draining down. We now have a new project that is drawing some more immediate need, as some of the wood around the bleacher areas has become warped and needs some attention, as a specific example of the impact of some of those facility needs. That comprehensive assessment that I mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation produced a report, and this is one image from that report that I want to be sure I really highlight. Again, $850 million was the comprehensive assessment. The next slide I'll show you shows what we've done in the last 10 years, and some of the things in the years since this assessment have actually already begun chipping away at that list and are moving some of the things on your screen from red toward green. This is like a stoplight. Red needs immediate attention. Yellow is going to need attention very, very soon. And green, it's in pretty good shape. The things on the list of the $850 million assessment, they don't all have to be completed in 2 years. It's a 10-year plan of how we get there. Red is to draw our attention of the areas that need our attention first. And what you'll notice, the areas that have the reddest with a little bit of yellow are mechanical. Those are the areas like air conditioning systems, boilers, the HVAC systems that need to be replaced. And again, those are much bigger dollar amounts because it's wholesale system change, not just changing one component of it. In some of those areas, we're unable to get the parts because the systems are old. So some of the narrative that's started to float around the community is, what has the district done since the last referendum to allow this assessment to balloon to be so big? And I really want to challenge that and counter that with, this is an assessment, not you must accomplish these things in the next 2 or 3 years. Because here's a picture of what the district has done since fiscal year 16, spending almost $200 million of just our local funds, our annual budget, to address some of these needs. And you can see that it ranges, but in the recent years, it's really been upwards of $20+ million annually for upgrades, as well as some building automation system improvements, which is updating our buildings to manage it online instead of manually, changing new chillers. Buffalo Grove has experienced, we had to miss a couple of days of school because the air conditioner wasn't working on extremely hot days, or we had so much condensation the floor was actually had some standing water in one situation. So I share this because just in the last 10 years, the district has spent almost $10 million or $200 million, an average of $20 million a year to update the buildings. But some of the things we're talking about are just so significant that they can't be accomplished in a single year's budget because of the needs are stretched across all of our buildings. So many of our standard classrooms, we dip into the classroom area, look the same as they did 30 years ago. The photo on top is one classroom in the district. Of course, they don't all look like this, but this is one image. And they're the one-armed bandit desk where you slide into the desk but you're stuck in a row. And as education evolves, we're trying to shift how instruction evolves as well. And a lot of our teachers are now using a much modernized instructional plan where they don't stand in front of the classroom and lecture for the entire class period. It's a lot more collaborative work. And the classroom setups really need to begin to shift toward collaborative furniture where students are sitting in groups, or they can be flexible and moved around the classroom. And our teachers are using something called a rotational model where they meet with a small group of students and you have a different stations around the classroom to break up the time and the area of focus, because the teacher isn't going to just lecture for the 85-minute class period. On the bottom, you have Rolling Meadows Theater. That theater is original to the building. It needs updating. The lighting system, the sound systems needs to be improved to give our students and their extracurriculars the ability to perform in a more modernized environment, as well as the facility just needs some attention. While making progress and improving on those student support areas, we've begun this process, but some of these, and I use this photo of Buffalo Grove because what you really can't see is on those door handles are knobs. And that's not ADA accessible by today's code. So when we touch these spaces, we're touching all aspects of that space. And we've begun down this road of not only ADA accessible as a priority, but also redesigning how we support students when they're in school and more of a whole child approach. And we're designing these spaces whenever we do touch them to reorganize them for it's a one-stop shop for our students to come have support from their dean, their counselors, social worker, and psychologists, those that share an alphabet, to ensure that student feels the support on the social emotional side and the behavioral side, as well as the academic and the academic planning. Our fire alarm systems are obsolete. They are in the safety category that we'll talk a little bit about later. They need wholesale system replacement. We can no longer receive parts for them. We have some asbestos mitigation, which is not a surprise given the age of our buildings. But when we touch those spaces, that's an additional cost when we're renewing them, is the asbestos area. And then some of the mechanicals are quite antiquated and need updating. On the top photo, you've got the boilers at Prospect. There'll be photos of what modern boilers look like in a few slides that you'll be able to see and just the significant difference. They're huge. I mean, this is from the 1950s and parts are becoming difficult to get. And then some of the HVAC work on top of the buildings, it's time to replace those units as well. We have some electrical issues in some of our buildings where wiring and fuse boxes need to be modernized and updated. That's also a part of the assessment, so we include that here. Some of our plumbing is aging. We had a burst pipe under Buffalo Grove over the summer that was causing some problems underneath the field house. And some of the piping produces brown water. Even here at Forest View on Mondays, typically the first couple of hours of the day, we've got some brown water rolling out, and we want, it's time to replace those piping systems throughout the buildings. One of our pools is at Wheeling is also original to the building. In this photo, we have a condensation issue there where there wasn't proper ventilation to pull the moisture out of the air. And after all this time, the moisture is causing some problems with the concrete. So it's on our project plan to actually address that. I believe in the summer of 26, it's coming up very soon. But it's also it's just as a highlight of some of the needs, what we're addressing. Our kitchens are kind of outdated. We need some new materials in the kitchen. Again, we're working on chipping away at those actively now. But on the broader scope of everything, just to paint the picture, we have the fold down tables with little discs. Modern high schools are more tables and chairs for flexible areas that students can work in when it's not lunch. So looking to evolve some of those areas of our buildings. Some of our parking lots are pretty small, and while we may not have the opportunity to expand them, we do have the opportunity to really look and evaluate traffic flow to ensure that not only are these the safest as possible, but are they designed in a way that we can maximize parking spaces and maybe add a handful of parking spaces as student mobility is a priority for today's teenagers. But what I really want you to focus on when you look at some of the outdoor facilities, if you can see that image of the track, and you see where the bleachers meet the asphalt, that circular concrete piece is a problem area, because as our facilities age, that begins to pull away from the surface, and becomes a tripping hazard. This track, this is actually Elk Grove. This track, you see, if you look past the hurdle there, you see the black line. Well, that black line is about a 2.5-inch lip from going from the concrete to the track. That's a major tripping hazard that needs some attention when we replace that. The turf is coming to end of life around the district, and we have a number of replacements coming as a normal replacement cycle. And this particular track, not only do we need to fix that lip, but it's also only 6 lanes when our students typically run an 8-lane track, and we're seeking opportunities to enhance the experiences that they have by giving them the full facilities they deserve. So this has become a talking point. We take great pride, our school board takes great pride in not having to ask the community over 50 years. And while I'm going to say it again, this $850 million is not a list of needs that must be done tomorrow, end of story. It's a list of areas that we need to focus on over the course of the next 10 years. And some of the aspects of that plan simply cannot be tackled with our annual budget. Some of the wholesale system changes would be approximately what one budget cycle would be to be able to touch only one building when we have needs across the buildings. So that's why we're here for this conversation, to educate the community on the needs and what we need to focus on, get feedback on the priority list to ensure that our priorities, as we communicate our needs with you, you're able to give some feedback on how you believe we ought to spend and prioritize those projects. And then when we talk about the dollars, where is that level of comfort if additional dollars were to be requested, so we can narrow our scope in future phases of this conversation. So I kind of touched on that. That's why we're here. We're here to have this conversation and really educate, but then engage in two-way feedback. So this is our second virtual meeting. We have our in-person meeting scheduled later this evening, and then that will close out phase 2. Phase 2 consisted of a randomized phone call scientific study. We had almost 600 people answer the phone and finish that survey, which is outstanding. And then we've had a voluntary number of people call in as well. And then voluntary online survey that families could take. To date, we have over 1,500 responses. So the response has been better than we could have imagined. And I'm really grateful for that, because it's going to shape our path forward. When we enter in phase 3 of the conversation, we'll come back with a narrowed list of priorities and a narrowed dollar amount to gauge that we're really on track with the conversation and we're being responsive to the feedback we receive. So I can't emphasize enough, no decision has been made. This is a conversation, a two-way conversation with our community. And again, grateful for your attendance and feedback as we go through this. So there are 10 potential individual project categories that I'm going to walk through. Some of those categories are more significant than others by design. Some of them I've covered already, the mechanical and infrastructure, the safety needs. Some of them I touched on, the classrooms. And there are some in here that I'll share with you. But again, we need to tackle them all at some point, but it's a matter of when they come up in the conversation and where we prioritize our dollars that is the purpose of this conversation. And then there'll be 3 potential funding levels that we'll cover, and I'll explain. And then you'll have the ability to chime in and give your feedback on. So now, in the point of the presentation, I'm going to walk through all 10 of these categories and give you a kind of a glimpse into what we're talking about, like what type of a project fits into each of these categories. They're not broken down by individual school yet. Eventually, we'll share which projects are needed at each individual school. But we want to keep our focus as a district, not focus on just our individual schools at this point. But that will come. So first and foremost, we have safety, security, and accessibility. This would be modernizing some of our fire alarm systems. I mentioned earlier, they're obsolete. We can no longer get replacement parts for them. The top photo is our current reality in District 214. It's just a simple door system. And there's nothing wrong with that door system. However, it is, if we're going to advance toward not only a more ADA compliant door, but a true safe interior that maximizes the safety and control that we have of our buildings. Heaven forbid we encounter the worst of all situations in one of our schools and we have an active intruder looking to cause serious harm. If you look at the bottom photo, on the right-hand side of that door is one of our proxy card readers. The badges that the staff members wear gives them access to certain areas of the building. It also gives us the ability to lock that building down internally. We have already achieved that level of safety and security from the outside. If there was someone seeking to gain access to the building, they'll be slowed down dramatically there or access completely denied. Internally, we have a vision of the most secure inside that we possibly can have, which is the ability to lock all classrooms down online. That saves our teachers a critical step of having to go to the door, close the door, lock the door in that extreme situation. It is, again, the pinnacle of what we're after and one aspect. If we're going to enhance the safety inside our buildings by adding that proxy card reader, we have to completely change the door hardware system, which means the new doors to be able to meet that level of technology demand. So that's why this photo is here as one example of some of the projects in that estimated $59 million to create a more safe and secure learning environment for our students that can focus on learning. Another category are classrooms. I mentioned that you saw that photo above in an earlier slide. The photo on the bottom is not a District 214 classroom. It's just an image of what it could look like in that collaborative furniture that I described to you. Estimated cost for touching up some of our facilities with paint, ensure LED lighting throughout, and then updated classroom furniture. And again, this is one of the areas in that assessment. It's not necessarily always going to be the priority. That's why we're asking for feedback to gauge where this fits. STEAM spaces, and just to be on the same page, education loves our acronyms. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So what finds itself in this category would be science labs. A lot of our science labs are original to the building. They need upgrading dramatically. Those, if you remember back in high school, those 200-pound big heavy tables that had the resin tops so science projects could be conducted on them safely, they're not flexible. Modern furniture, you'll notice on the bottom, has the casters so they can be moved around, and that classroom can be used for a lab setting as well as a general classroom setting. Our labs today are separate. You have a classroom setting and a lab setting, and we're not maximizing that space, limiting what all can really be done. Art would be our theaters. Updating the photo that I showed you earlier of Rolling Meadows as one example. All of our theaters need attention across all 7 high schools, including Forest View, where our specialized schools are. And then art also means our art classrooms. A lot of our art classrooms are originals to the building and need some modernization. If we touched this and completed that area, it'd be a $75 million potential expense. The mechanicals. This is the most expensive of the items, but it's also the most impactful and the most comprehensive is in wholesale system change at $200 million. The photo on top is actually, it's not a boiler or air conditioning system, it's a generator. And it's the generator at Prospect that we can no longer get parts for. If that generator fails and power goes out, we're in a dark building and where our buildings are set up to where we have emergency power powered by those generators. So emergency officials can come and ComEd can come work on the buildings, but also we have a safer environment with some light and the ability to acknowledge if there's an emergency going on would still be in place. The bottom photo is that image that I was kind of referencing when we were talking about the boilers at Prospect. Those are modern boiler HVAC systems. Those are not in District 214 currently. It's just an image of what it looks like. You'll notice the space savings, but also just the modernization, the magnitude and efficiency that we'll be able to gain. There are serious dollars ready for us to capitalize on and save when we upgrade our system to make them more energy efficient. That's one of the areas that we are very intently focused on as we make all of these changes, is how do we evolve into a more energy efficient learning environment so that we can ensure we're not spending our dollars and our lights that go from, as we say, go from burning to learning, and ensure our dollars are in the classroom where they belong. But again, the aging mechanical systems to replace them will be approximately a $200 million price tag. Infrastructure, we have some, I mentioned the first photo, the water damage at Elk Grove because of a roof leak. We're going to finalize a Prospect roof replacement from a leak we had a couple of years ago coming up this summer. We had some significant repairs and replacements, or maybe that's summer 27. Either way, it's on the horizon. But we have some, this would cover replacing and updating all the roofs across the district that are currently in need. Some of them have been done, but then also windows. Replacing windows to double pane windows. We've got some classrooms. There's an example at Buffalo Grove. It's a single pane classroom that the window actually frosts in the wintertime, and it affects the temperature in that classroom. So with two pane windows, as you know from your homes, we'll be able to stabilize the temperature in the buildings for a more comfortable learning environment. Then I mentioned the plumbing and electrical earlier as well. This is also the second most expensive, price tag at $190 million. Pools, we have pools at three of our buildings, or four of our buildings, excuse me, and Wheeling's pool is in need of some attention repair. That must be done. We have that in our most recent 5-year capital improvement plan. But I also know pools have been an area of interest in this community for quite some time. So we placed this in here just to gauge that area of interest. We need to upgrade Wheeling, but is there interest in the community or not to add pools at our remaining two sites that don't have them, so that there's a pool at each location? If we did that, it'd be about $105 million spend. Innovative spaces, we're looking to not only upgrade and renew our facilities, but in doing so, in the process, creating a flexible environment, for our students, for that collaboration in some of the free open spaces. I mentioned the cafeterias already shifting to a more table and chair environment, so that flexible that area could be used during the school day when students are in independent learning time. We're moving lockers around, Rolling Meadows, for instance, and placing some collaborative furniture there for students that are in lunch or have a free period to work and not leave the building. So if we went down this route, this is about a $35 million spend. But again, this is here just to gauge community interest. Is this an area of interest for you? Main entrance, another one of those areas just to gauge community interest. Our newest building, as I said, was the 1970s with Buffalo Grove, but most of them in the 50s and 60s. And if we wanted to enhance that entrance and enhance that, actually, which would come with a new vestibule, safety and security could be infused, but is more of an aesthetic than a dramatic need. So again, this is one of those, where's the community's interest in terms of priority? This is not necessarily a must-have. Student support areas, cafeterias, and kitchen. I talked a little bit about how we're evolving student support. If we touch the remaining buildings in terms of those student support, as well as all of our cafeterias, we're looking at about a $78 million spend to upgrade those kitchens to create that more grab-and-go food court kind of an environment, as well as the furniture in the cafeteria. Our athletic facilities, I'd like to put you in the frame of mind that the athletic facilities are more about a safe environment than they are about upgrading the facilities. A lot of people, I've had a lot of conversations with families about the first of these major projects, which was Buffalo Grove, that we're nearing completion. And that I want to just clear the air and make sure everybody knows that that's not about athletic field upgrade. It's solving a critical drainage issue. We had a major drainage problem on they call it the North Shelf at Buffalo Grove. The baseball team had not been able to play on that facility and consistently for over 5 years because we had stormwater drainage problems. So what we actually did in that area was we redesigned the stormwater retention area and put a 5 million gallon concrete basin underneath the baseball field to eliminate those drainage issues. Now we have consistent playing surfaces as well as teaching areas on the new turf field out there in that auxiliary turf area that is reliable and consistent, and our students can use them regularly in class time, but also our athletic teams have new facilities that they can rely on and won't be ruined or unplayable. But this is also touching those tracks. I mentioned the Elk Grove track and that lip. You can see more clearly now the concrete and asphalt meeting point. And if you pay attention to those, you'll notice that a lot of them are starting to pull away. A modern system that we're using, we actually used at Buffalo Grove, is a whole curbing system that places that concrete curb along. It's a more reliable and structurally sound way of securing bleachers and fences. And then the bottom is something that I think we all recognize as a need, which is the handrails to make our facilities more ADA accessible, both inside and outside in our bleachers. That's an area of emphasis and something we're going to do, but it's also just a part of this assessment. So we'll go down this road regardless. It's just a matter of the scope in which we're able to tackle things. If we do all the remaining areas of our district, it's about $100 million spend to upgrade the safety and ADA accessibility on our athletic fields. So now we've reached the point where we're going to ask for that first wave of feedback. And we're going to break this into two parts. The first part is we'll ask you to rank the priorities on that list of 10 items that I just went through. The finances we'll get to. We're not going to do that part first. We're going to keep them separate. Even if your answer on the finances section of the funding levels is going to be no additional funds, of course we respect that. We still want your feedback on how would you prioritize these projects, because while we have you, we might as well get the feedback on the direction that we go. Because even if end up at that we never go for referendum, we still need to start tackling some of these things and figuring out how we're going to solve some of these issues. And your feedback is important. So rank your highest priority with a 1 and your lowest priority with a 10. Unfortunately, we're going to force you into making a decision, because I know a lot of them you use as ones or 2s because they're really important, but really prioritize them. And while you work on this, we're going to begin answering some of the questions that you have. If you have any of those questions, you haven't typed them into the Q&A box, please do that now. You're welcome to, our partner Rich is going to drop a link into the chat that you can access the feedback form, or you're welcome to use your cell phone by scanning this QR code. The feedback form looks like this. This is the priority list. I'll go back to the QR code if that's the path that you choose to take. And with that, while you're filling this out, we're going to give you about 5 minutes to do this. And Patrick, I'll ask, we can try and tackle a few questions in the process.
That sounds good. Thanks, Dr. Rowe. If we don't get to your question, feel free to send it via email to info@d214.org. That's info@d214.org. Several questions have come in. First one is, what is the time frame for any renovations or new constructions if you were to go to referendum and it passed? And are you looking at new schools as part of this, or is it strictly renovations to existing schools?
Well, that's a very good question. A new school today, to build a new high school, would be between $300 and $400 million. So right now, we're not talking about that at all. We don't really have any plans to go toward a new school. Our facilities are the bones of our facilities are very good, and we've modernized in a lot of the places already. It's really just about some of the mechanisms and the mechanicals and some of that infrastructure that just needs to be updated. But no, we are not planning on new buildings. It's not cost effective in today's environment unless we see a dramatic aspect of growth in the district where a new school facility would be needed. We have capacity in our buildings.
Okay, can you place the facility investment needs in the context of demographic changes and forecasts and any macroeconomic expectations? Obviously, there's a lot going on in the economy right now.
There's a lot going on in the economy. In terms of demographic need, I think the facility improvements are just needed in terms of general health of the buildings. Right now, I believe all of our programs are functioning in our buildings at a high level. We need time to modernize some of them. So no, I don't believe demographic changes are going to make a major impact on what the needs are in terms of the priorities in this list. Dr. Attaway or Mr. Yulee, if you have anything to add to that, I would welcome you to help round out some of these answers if I'm not 100% accurate. You're the experts in those areas.
All right, Dr. Rowe, do we have an estimate of what expected operating expenses might be, or savings implemented by more efficient mechanical systems or utilizing LED lighting?
Yes, actually, that's a statistic that we're beginning to track. As we replace all the lighting in the district, you can now there's a significant difference that you'll notice in terms of the quality of lighting when we shift to a new LED room. It's much brighter and looks just cleaner. But we are tracking the savings. And I want to say last year it was upwards of $200,000+ just in some of the energy efficiency areas. As we replace some of these air conditioning and boiler systems, these new energy efficient systems come with incentives. So there are some opportunities that we may say $200 million is needed for the mechanicals, that we may be able to capture and capitalize on some of the incentives when we buy a new system that brings that cost down, which would then allow us to stretch that money further, obviously. But it is an aspect of our spending that we're tracking and are reporting out to our board annually because it's a priority for us to become more energy efficient.
Okay, couple questions here.
Actually, you know what, Mr. Maga, let me mention this while I'm on that question. We currently have a request for proposals out seeking a partner to submit a proposal for what it would take to put solar on Rolling Meadows. It has the most roof coverage with the newest roof that would allow us to offset, I want to say it was 37% of the energy of that building. And so all those dollars that we could potentially replace with solar can divert back into the capital improvement program.
All right, a couple of questions here on 50 years. If District 14 has been following the inspections and compliance along the way, why has the district waited essentially 50 years to address some of these things? So can you address that kind of perception that's out there?
Sure. And I think that there's two things that I would like to say to that. One of the areas the district does invest in is our custodial maintenance team. We've got some really strong people in this team that are excellent at their work, and the repairs and maintenance of these mechanicals we've been able to handle on our own inside. Parts have been accessible, and we've been able to prolong the life of these mechanicals probably beyond what anyone would have expected. And where we are now, after it's big and it's kind of shocking when you look at it in totality. But we're really just at the point where our buildings are anywhere from 52 to 75 years old, and just the whole system needs to change for wholesale system replacement. Mr. Yulee, you're welcome to add to that, but we have to put our mind to, it's not that they have not been neglected by any means. We've replaced chillers in our schools, but when you talk about wholesale system replacement, the dollar amount just it grows beyond what a year's budget can handle.
Okay, Dr. Rowe, we've got several more questions coming out, a lot around finances. So I'm wondering if you'd want to move to the next section, and then we continue on with questions.
That sounds like a good plan. Let's go talk about the next section. All right, so the next section will have three potential funding levels, a low, medium, and high. And by no means are they low, medium, or high. They're all high, and I recognize that. But for the sake of conversation, in terms of the scope of what we're looking at, that's where the name comes from. And again, these are just numbers that we grabbed trying to gauge the scope. Given the fact that we had $850 million on the assessment, if we chose to attack some of this, we chunked these based on to try and accomplish the majority of the things on that list over the course of time. So after this feedback, these numbers will evolve and they'll change based on that feedback. But we just needed to gauge the community as to where you were. So the low funding level, which would allow us to accomplish some improvements, approximately $400 million, the tax impact on a median home of being a value of just under $400,000 would be approximately $198 a year. This is based on a 25-year, 25-year bond rate. The medium funding level, $600 million, comes with a tax impact of about $310 per year on a $400,000 home. And then the high level would be $800 million, approximately about $421 a year on a $400,000 home. It's approximately $38 a month, to put that into perspective. But those are the three funding levels. So now we can shift into the next phase of this feedback. Highest priority really is more about which of the areas is most favorable to you in terms of what you'd be willing to contribute as a taxpayer in the community. 1 being the highest, 4 being the lowest. And I only covered 3 categories because that 4th category is no additional funding, which is obviously on here. And as I said, hopefully you filled out the priority form on the projects, and now the feedback will be able to come. So there's a link in the chat that if you're already there, or you can scan the QR code. This is what that feedback form will look like. And I'd like to give you a few minutes to begin filling that out. And now we can dive into some more of those financial questions, Patrick.
Okay, Dr. O, what happened to all the COVID money that was that the schools received? Weren't HVAC and other systems upgraded with that money?
That's a good question. Dr. Attaway, do you have some details about how we spent our ESSER dollars?
Yeah, the majority of the ESSER dollars were actually used to address learning loss. That was the intent of the money that we received from the federal government, but there were some facility projects that were included in there. So we had HVAC enhancements at both Buffalo Grove and Wheeling included in the latest round of COVID relief funding from the government. But the majority of it was used to address learning loss and student impact from the pandemic.
Okay, are there state and or federal funds available for any of these asks?
The state of Illinois had a capital improvement grant program that was more of a reimbursement style program that they have not kept up on. I want to say buildings that were constructed back in early 2000s. They came through with some capital improvement grant money, but they have not updated that list or continued with that. We're eligible for a $50,000 a year capital improvement grant that we apply for and get on an annual basis. And as for federally, none that I'm aware of. We're very active in the grant world and have a sizable allocations that come from grants, but they aren't really for building enhancements. They're more for special programming, students, special education. Some of our career pathways programs have been propped up and constructed on grants.
Okay. How much existing bond debt will be paid off in the next 10 years? Is it still the case that you're authorized by law to roll those maturing bonds or issue those bonds for new funds?
It's a great question. Dr. Attaway.
Yeah, so we're actually going to pay off all of our current outstanding debt within the next couple of years. So levy year 28, so tax year 2028 will be the final payment that we have on our current outstanding debt. And then the district will be carrying no outstanding debt obligations.
So there's a follow-up. If any, what is the present unused bonding authority for District 214?
So that's a little more complicated question because it depends on the interest rate at the time. It depends on the term of the bond issue. So the authority that the district has is for a specific payment each year. So the longer we issue bonds for, the longer the term is, the more we're able to issue. But if we were to look at, say, about a 20-year working cash bond issue, we're probably going to be in the neighborhood of about $50 million that we would be able to issue for that in spring of 27.
Okay, follow up here.
Well, actually, there is another route that the district could go on that I just want to be transparent and open about. Recently, the state of Illinois has afforded the district the ability, districts, not just us, districts, the ability to issue debt against life safety needs. And that there's not really much of a cap on that. However, given the scope of our needs, that's been an aspect that we've been unwilling to do given the ask. We'd much rather engage with the community and get feedback on how they feel about it versus issuing significant debt, because some of these areas of our projects do fall on life safety. But we'd much rather operate on a request than a demand.
Okay, Justin, can you take a look at the question that came in at 12:53 just to make sure we're answering that, and then I will ask another question here.
Yeah, about rolling over.
Yeah, do you have that?
So it depends on what is meant.
Can you ask the question out loud for those of us that can't see it?
So that is not the question. How much bonding authority will you have to roll over in the next few years?
So it depends what's being meant by rollover. If that means, are we able to refund and at any of the debt, we've already done that. So all of our outstanding debt has already been refunded and reissued at a lower interest rate.
Mhm.
So we aren't able to do that again for anything that we have outstanding. There's only a few years left on that anyway. If
Okay.
the question is how much debt will we be able to issue within the next few years, then that's the question that I just answered. It would be about 50 million, 50 to 60 million in spring of 27, assuming a 20-year term.
Okay, thank you. What is the value of District 214's financial reserves?
The district has a, yeah, it's a really great question, especially given the times and what we're dealing with. The district has about a 47% fund balance, which equates to nearly $170 million. And we have been intentionally spending that down on these projects. The district in 2012 issued a position paper that outlined a plan to keep our budget or our reserves at 50% at minimum. Because at the time, coming out of the Great Recession, the district was in a much poorer financial position than it is today. And since achieving that, we now have these building needs. We've been intentionally spending that fund balance down and shifted that position paper to a 40% minimum. So we had some of that fund balance we could spend on these projects. Why I say it's important that we think about this, and I'm really glad that question was asked, is because we're currently waiting on Cook County property tax bills. They're typically issued in July, due in August. Those property tax bills and that second installment fund the district function. And the reason we maintain a healthy fund balance, or the ideal is to maintain a healthy fund balance, is in Cook County, sometimes those property tax bills are late, or we're waiting for the rainy day. Well, we're in the rainy day. It's currently, we're in a monsoon, as a matter of fact, because the Cook County property tax bills, the second installment, have not been issued. The date, we have not been told when they will be issued. So we are actively spending the fund balance down in order to make payroll and keep the lights on in our buildings. Our current projection has us making with working cash into early to mid-January before we have to have a conversation about liquidating some of our investments and spending the fund balance down even further. The other area that I want to be sure people understand is a 47% fund balance. So the actual achievement of the $170 million is a June 30th funding level, because we would have received the first wave of property tax bills in the spring. So the way the fund balance works is we dip down until about February when that first wave starts coming back in, and it's a high mark at June 30th is when that's measured. Right now, it's nowhere near $170 million in terms of fund balance because we're living off of it because Cook County property taxes, the bills have been delayed for so long. Dr. Attaway, if I've said anything that you would disagree with or you want to expand on, please do so.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. One of the important notes about fund balance is when you see year-end fund balance projections anywhere in our budgets, that is a snapshot in time. So we receive the majority of our funding twice a year from property tax installments, and then we spend that money down. So you'll see huge influxes of cash, and then we just start spending down our reserves as bills come due. As bills come due, and as payroll comes due. A perfect example of this would be on July 1st of this current fiscal year. Our starting fund balance was $186 million. Right now, well, at the end of September, which is the last month that we have closed completely, we were down to 138 million. And we're down even further than that now that we've paid out October list of bills and payroll. So while the number looks high, that's the nature of how we receive and spend money in school districts, where we receive huge influxes of cash and then we just spend that down during the year. And that's what we live off of.
I think it's not like a savings account that we would have that you have access to this chunk of dollars for an emergency. It's a part of our spending plan annually. And I think it's just been exacerbated by a processing breakdown in Cook County. It's negatively impacting not just us, but school districts and taxing bodies across the entire county. It's grown to actually a fairly dire situation.
Okay, Dr. Rowe, we have just come upon 1 o'clock, so I think we'll probably need to wrap here. I just wanted to, the last kind of question here is, people have asked about the survey and kind of, what are you doing with the results? Can they get more information?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So where things go. So tonight after the community or our in-person session at Rolling Meadows High School, the online survey will close, and then we'll be tabulating all of that feedback. And on November 13th, we'll be sharing. Our partner E.O. Sullivan will be at our board meeting to share the results of that and update the board. So that's certainly accessible at the board meeting, or our board meetings are aired online every time. So all that feedback is there. And then we have a page on our website in the About section where we're looking at facilities that the details of each phase will be updated with community feedback. And then what happens beyond that? So once we get the feedback and we can analyze that feedback, then we begin to shift into phase 3, which some of the items on the priority list that are at the bottom end will fall off, and we'll narrow our focus down, and the dollar amounts will of course shift as we continue the conversation. And I really just want to reiterate, I probably have hit it hard already, but I really want to reiterate, this is a process. We are not jumping to any conclusions, and I hope that you'll continue down this path with us and engage with us in the conversation. Is our intent here is to educate, but it's also to listen. As we're listening to your feedback, and you'll see when we get to phase 3 an adjustment based on what you share with us. So I really thank you for the hour that you gave us today. I thank you for your continued faith in District 214. It's a tremendous place to work and learn. I'm so grateful to our wonderful community for being a supportive community to our schools. We continue to work very hard for the students of our community to ensure they have the very, very best and they can discover their future while they're with us. Thank you again for the time today, and I wish you all well, and we'll update through the website and at our school board meeting when we have the results. Thank you.